Good morning. A couple of weeks ago, I was invited by a friend of mine, Muhammad, to join he and his family for iftar. Now, if you're not familiar with iftar, this is the meal that Muslims celebrate at the end of each day during Ramadan. This is the meal that breaks their fast. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims who observe this tradition will fast from sunup until sundown. And when the sun goes down, they celebrate iftar. It's the meal that breaks the fast. So he had invited us to come and join he and some of his other friends for this iftar, this fast-breaking dinner. We went that night and we had a great time. It was really a very enlightening experience for me and a very educational experience. There were several other people who were there. We were joined by another priest who's Episcopalian and his wife, another couple from a non-denominational church, another couple where he was Muslim and observing Ramadan. Well, there were several of us there, and we all came from different backgrounds, from different faith experiences. In some cases, we came even from different countries and spoke different original languages that were native to us. It really was a fascinating dinner to be able to all sit around together and just to be able to share in friendship and fellowship and to talk about faith and life and the world from each of our own perspectives. You know, during the meal, we did talk about our backgrounds. We talk about our different faiths, where we come from, and some of our traditions. We talked about our homelands and families. We talked about what life looks like in different places around the world. And, you know, during the course of the meal, I learned a lot about Ramadan. I learned what it's all about. I learned more about what it meant particularly to these people, what it meant to them personally. I learned about some of the practices and traditions and how actually the practices and traditions will vary around the world based on geography, where you're from. That not all Muslims celebrate with the exact same customs. There's some minor differences in different places. Now, it really was a great time. You know, during the course of the meal, it was fascinating because as we began to talk about our different lives and where we come from and our different faiths, it became obvious that there really were differences between us. Whether it became our beliefs or our traditions, our customs, our language, there were differences between us. But throughout the course of the meal, we had so much fun enjoying just fellowship and friendship and conversation, and some really great food. And what became even more obvious than the differences was all that we shared in common. Everybody who sat around the table that night, whether we were Methodist or Episcopalian or Muslim or non-denominational, we all shared a love for God, a love for each other. We all wanted to see the world be a better place and to leave the world in a better place for our kids. We all wanted to be able to pass on a legacy that means something in this life. We all enjoyed a lot of great food that night. You know, sometimes in our world, it becomes easy to focus on all the differences that exist between different groups of people. Social media, I believe, is a great tool for many things to keep us connected, informed, updated. And yet, if we're not careful, social media can really quickly turn into just an echo chamber where we only see and hear from people who look like us and think like us and talk like us and believe like us. And if we're not careful, it begins to just reinforce this idea that everybody believes like me. And in reality, there is so much diversity in our world. And that's not something to be afraid of. It's something that I believe that we can embrace. That whenever we find ways to come together and intentionally seek out people who are different from us, we find that it makes our lives and our world that much richer. Today, I want to encourage us to be intentional about seeking out somebody who is different from us. Maybe they believe differently than you, or have a different faith. Maybe they come from a different place, or they just look different from you. Seek out somebody that's different from you today. Take time to have a conversation. Maybe even take the time to share a meal together. And you might just be surprised that in spite of the differences, you probably have more in common than you'd first realize. I hope you make today a great day.